Written late in life, Béla Bartok's Concerto for Orchestra is one of the most frequently performed works of the 20th century. It's remarkable for its brilliant orchestration, teaming invention, and a vast range of compositional techniques, all bearing the unmistakable imprint of the composer's personality.
As a composer, Bartok operated on two different levels. One of them was influenced directly by his love of folk music, which he elevated to an entirely new plane. The other was the level where he composed in his own personal idiom. For him, the grand tradition was the Viennese tradition. Beethoven right at the outset, and then Strauss. But he felt very much on the margin of things. He was very aware of that. This tradition marked him very profoundly, and that was why he turned to a different tradition. He was caught up between the two, and we see him switching back and forth between the two traditions. These two levels in his work as a composer are clearly discernible throughout his life.
Béla Bartok was born on the 25th of March 1881 in the south of what was then Hungary. After studying music in Budapest, he soon developed into the leading figure in avant-garde Hungarian music. At an early stage, he embarked on a systematic study of Hungarian peasant music, which he considered an art form in its own right and which accompanied him throughout his career. In the late 1930s, Béla Bartok was forced to terminate his studies. With the outbreak of the Second World War, the influence of National Socialism became increasingly suffocating and also extended to Hungary.
The terrible things that have been happening all over the world. So much unrest, so much distress. And now this appalling withdrawal by the Western nations. It would be best to get away from here, to escape from this pestilential proximity. But where could one go?
In October 1940, Bartok emigrated to the United States. The first few years were extremely arduous. Together with his wife, Bartok gave concerts as a pianist, but not one single new work materialized. Then in 1943, he received a commission from the conductor Sergei Koussevitzky for the Concerto for Orchestra, which was first performed in Boston on the 1st of December 1944. The first movement of the Concerto for Orchestra begins with an earnest, austere, slow introduction. Gradually, a tonal theme in E minor emerges from this atmosphere, first on the flute and later in the trumpets. In the third movement, this theme plays a central role. For the rest of the first movement, Bartok sticks closely to the classical sonata form. The main theme of the Allegro vivace is typical of Bartok in the way it first surges upwards and then immediately plunges back downwards. Right from the outset, it's clear how the work got its name. In his program note for the first performance, Bartok writes,
The title of this symphony-like orchestral work is explained by its tendency to treat the single instruments in a concertante or soloistic manner.
The development of the first theme ends with a brief interim motif on the trombone. A change of tempo ushers in the second subject. Initially, the melody in the oboe is based on only 2 notes. They're subjected to rhythmic variation and further development. After the development of these 2 themes, the trombone motif returns to supply the material for a fugato section in the brass. In the closing recapitulation, the 2 themes of this sonata form movement then reappear, this time in reverse order.